the big stuff, at least I know I want to go over today, and you might have some thoughts, Aaron, too, is talk about kind of last month and the test run we did of kind of the strategy we had discussed, and then talk about this month and how we'll implement it this month, and then finally also talk about just what people would like to be doing, what people would like to see happen, and kind of how people would like to be involved in this strange time.
Well, I'm here to facilitate the meeting, but you all committee members feel free to converse amongst yourselves. Carolyn, I haven't met you yet. I'm Erin.
But I know I feel like I haven't met anybody in so long. I recognize the other faces. Nice to meet you. I'm glad to be able to do this. This is great. Even though it's odd, it's good to connect any way we can.
Yeah. Wow. I've seen, it's been a while.
Yeah, although I see you a lot on Instagram and all your stories. I love those. Those are great.
Oh, well, thank you. So, well, great. On that note, I guess we can sort of start, if you guys are okay with it, with talking about last month. I sent out the metrics for the month. They were pretty standard. Around 10,000 reach. That's typically right where we hit. That's the sweet spot. Nothing extraordinary. It's not like it did wildly better than the previous month. It was pretty standard, but standard is good. I mean, standard means all the numbers are going up. We have more followers, more people getting to see what we do. If you have the metrics open, you can see our reach was 50. Now it was up from August, but August we weren't very active. That was when we still were kind of in pandemic mode. I was posting, but there was no real, methodology to it. It was just, here's an interesting thing, post, because we weren't really meeting yet at that point. So now that we're active again, it's, or more regularly active again, it's going right back up, which is good. The engagement was good. We had 1,384 engagements, so people were engaging with us. Means the content was good, people liked it, and we have 50 new followers. So we're now at 1,204 followers, which is awesome, because I remember when I started this time, I think it was like a year ago in July, we had about 500 or 600 followers. So we've gone up 50% or 100% in a year. So that's awesome. If we could continue that would be really good progress. It would mean this time next year, we should have over 2,000 followers. So I'd say that's a pretty good goal. It's lofty. We would need to be very active, but I think we could do it. However, that being said, I think that big growth spurt did come from going from not having very regular posting at all for a while to suddenly having it. So it's possible that doubling again would be tougher, but I would love to see us get at least a 50% increase and maybe get to 1,800 or 1,900. I think 2,000 would be a nice goal, but we'll see. And then the top posts. So what we had talked about last month was we did the Barry O'Kelly, kind of like our theme for the month, and historic method. People love hearing about method. That definitely was popular. That was Travis's idea. I wish he was here to revel in it. But people really liked hearing about method. Our top post was a historic photo of the students in the school that I think I actually pulled from our Raleigh historic website. And it had a reach of almost 4,000, had 50 likes, it had 25 shares, had comments, it had 300 clicks. So people were really into that. And it was just kind of, and that one promoted the tour that we'd be offering. And I don't need to go through all of this because you guys have this information. But basically I did a lot more about the school. I showed like the modern day look of the school, the history of the school with historic archival photos, talked about the grave that's on campus, promoted the virtual tour. And then the live stream was very, very simple. This time around, it was really a test. So I didn't expect that it would be a very like wildly popular thing because we've never done it before ever. People don't really know to look to us for that. So the stream was very, very moderate. It only 200, it had 100 views and 40 likes. So it was not like, you know, but I mean, that's what you would expect for a first time stream if you've never done it. So I think this month we really could pump it up with it being October, talking about doing like a tour in a cemetery. I think that could be a much more exciting thing to build social media for. Does anybody have thoughts about what we could do differently this month?
Before we talk about next month, can you provide a summary of like what types of comments were on the top posts from last month?
Let me take a look, actually. That's a great idea. You can see the sentiment. Let me take a quick look. I don't have that pulled up.
Which post are you going to look at?
Really any of them. I was going to try top posts.
Yeah, so like on the ones you sent, the top post of the students had 5 comments, but then the second one had 19 comments. So was it just people responding to the picture or people having a conversation amongst themselves?
Let me see. Let me take a look and see. That's a good question. I haven't been putting the sentiment in the metrics for this up until now, but I can certainly start doing that. I think that is not a bad idea at all. Let's scroll down real quick and look. All right, all right, this one. Okay, so here's one. This is the top post, which looks like that, but it has 6 comments. So I don't know if I missed one or
There's one since you pulled the numbers.
It must be. So, okay, there was a Barbara T. Sullivan, and she said, I was born in Raleigh and raised Method with a loving family and neighbors who were like my family as well. So just someone from that. I love this. Another person, Martha Bennett, I love the story of how the Method community named their streets. When Raleigh started posting street signs, they went to city council and asked to be included, but were told it was outside the city limits and could not be. So they went home and named their own streets and made homemade posts on the corners. Wow.
Oh, wow. That's fun.
Yeah. Okay. Aaliyah Blaylock. And then she just made a quote. In 1830, 4,780 people lived in Raleigh, including 466 free blacks and 1,621 enslaved ones. Blacks in Raleigh collectively made up almost half the city's population, yet there were living under harsh law, such as the right to vote, preach, carry firearms, marry slaves, or transact business with the enslaved. So it's just historic information. She runs a page in a group called Black Raleigh. She comments pretty regularly with information on the Black community. Another person, I'm so happy to have grown up with African-American friends in Raleigh. Sometimes it was difficult. Other times we hung out, laughed, and shared with each other. And another person just said, wow. So, yeah, the comments are people sharing their own thoughts, their own memories, their own, history that they're aware of. Let's see. I'm going to try to find another one of our top posts.
The one that looks like it had the most was, you just labeled it historic school photos.
I think that's, well, let me see, hold on.
And it had 19 when you sent us the.
Okay. So one thing to bear in mind, and this is that one. One thing to bear in mind is Facebook counts comments. So I also share these into groups. So let me look in the groups and find where some of these comments are. So this one, it's also counting comments from when people share it and then people comment on.
Got it.
So here's another one, Shelly Winters. She interacts with us a lot, and she did it. And we had people commenting on hers saying, I know where that is. I work near there and didn't know the history around that area. Very interesting.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
And then another person says, Oberlin has been totally gentrified. Um, so that's another example. Let me see more here. Okay, so it was shared North Carolina history hunters, and people there commented. Let's see. Okay, so this isn't an actual history group. I have to go into it. Okay, so people are saying, "Wow, I didn't read information about method." Um, oh, one person asked, "What are the other 10 Freedmen's villages?" Which I don't know the answer because we talk about Oberlin a lot, but there were supposedly 12. Um, so there's several people asking about what are the other Freedmen's villages, what happened to them, what were their names, the question. I do try to answer questions when I get a chance to, because obviously response comment is good for engagement. Um, so yeah, that that's a lot of times it's people either sharing their own insights to add to the story, or it's people you know saying, "Wow, I didn't know," or asking a question. That's typically the kinds of responses we're getting. And sometimes I don't know the answer, so I don't know what to say.
Yeah, that might be something to pass along to the research committee.
It that way we could actually answer questions.
Yeah.
It sounds like a lot of community-based knowledge sharing, though, which is really cool.
Is
The in the email you sent out for the meeting, Heather, you note reach in addition to likes and shares. So like the top comment had a much further reach, whereas the comment that, or the post that Colette was just asking about, the 19 comments, is it's got more likes and comments, but a much lower reach. So what is that metric?
so I'll explain. I found some other comments here, by the way. Someone said they have their mom's yearbook from going to school. Wow, that would be cool to find. So anyway, yeah. So the way reach worked, it's so picky. So you could have something that has 100 likes, but if the people who liked it only have like 100 followers each, you're only going to get a limited amount of reach. So reach is how many eyeballs were put on your picture. That's the reach. So like, let's say I liked it as Heather. I just clicked like. Well, I have 5,000 friends. So my one like is going to make it show up in some of my friends' feed. And because I have 5,000 friends, my one like might give it a reach of 3,000 just from like, versus like 50 likes from somebody who only has 50 friends isn't going to give it very much reach at all. So it's really hard to gauge. You can do like even more in-depth metrics and like try to dig and figure out like, well, who is it who liked it that gave it so much reach? But that's why the reach is sometimes really big and some with like less engagement, but it's still a big reach. And sometimes there's a lot of engagement, and I think there would be a lot of reach because there's people commenting, there's shares, but it just turns out that those people either have a very limited following themselves, or maybe there's a share, but if one person shared it into like a history group with 30,000 people in it, now it's going to get a really big reach from that one share, versus 50 people could share it to their personal Facebook and it's not going to get as much of a reach. If that helps explain it.
Yeah, I think I understand that.
I try usually myself, if it fits, I try to share it. So like usually like say with method, I take that same post and share it into you grew up in Raleigh, North Carolina when, right? And I might share it into that group, which has 20,000 people, to get them to engage with it. But then my one share, just that I'm doing for our social media, is giving it a bunch of reach, but I can't do that with every post, right? Because I don't want to flood or spam anybody with RHDC. So that also can be a defining factor, is whether or not I personally shared it into some groups versus if I didn't do that. So they're all important. Like the reach is really important. I'd say engagement is even more important than reach. I like to hit a reach of at least 10,000 because I feel like aiming for that each month. Reach is almost something you can control because the more I post and the more I share, the reach is going to keep going up. But I can't control the engagement. I can't make people engage. So engagement is really a more important factor to look at. The reach is something I can control. I can make that reach as big or as little as I want based on how much I want to push that content. So a much more important factor is, do we have comments? Do we have shares? Do we have likes? Are people interacting? So if the reach is 3,000, but it's only got one share, I would say that's a less valuable post than a post that only has a reach of 500, but has like 10 comments and 20 shares. That would be a more valuable post.
I agree with that too.
You mentioned the research group. Is there a way to research the other 10 villages?
I think that would be a fantastic. I actually don't know. I don't know much about that at all. I know Oberlin and Method. If we wanted to make that a project, we could have someone who wants to take that on. And that might actually bring us to the next part of this meeting, which is I really wanted to find ways to allow you guys to do more engaging work. Because I know in the past and so with events, we each took, our own, we got like, oh, okay, I'll take care of, posting on Facebook about it. And I'll take care of, contacting the place to rent the table or whatever. We each had a role. But without events, we're really limited to mostly social media. And since that's something I was the person who did most of that, I don't want to make it so that you guys don't have anything. And so I'd love to find out from you guys if there's something that you would like to do that could be a passion project. And maybe it could be, we're talking about having theme months now, ending with a live stream to explore the piece of history. Maybe if you don't want to post on Facebook, because I know most people don't seem to jump to do that, maybe you could help me with researching, right? Like, it takes me a while if I have to research every post to make it really informative. And my posts are typically pretty long. They're like little miniature essays. I really write like a long post with a photo and make it a very, almost like writing a story, but like short, like maybe 300 words. If somebody wanted to be like, oh, I'd love to research cool tidbits about, whatever we're working on in October, and send you things that you could post about, that would be helpful. Or research photos. Or if you have a passion project of something that, you'd like to learn about the other 10 freedmen villages, and maybe that could be something that we do as our November theme. It could be someone who has all that information. I don't know. It's tough because we're not doing events, but I want to make sure that you guys still have meaningful ways to engage with the group. Do you guys have any thoughts about that stuff, that given that we're not having events, something that you think you could do or that you'd want to do? And I also don't want to give you like an overabundance of work if you don't want to do a bunch of volunteer hours. So I'd love some thoughts on that.
I wouldn't mind doing some research. I don't know, it might vary availability and everything to do it, but I wouldn't mind doing research on some topics, not even if it wasn't these topics, just in general as we go forward. I think that's a great use of our time, and I think every research kind of can often be bigger than what you're even looking at because you find something else. Just like this right here, we have 10. We know about 2. Maybe we'll never find out about the others, but who knows? They may lead us in some other directions we didn't anticipate.
You're right. And people are asking, people are asking the questions. It would be great if RHDC could respond, have like a meaningful piece of education to give them, because I literally don't know. So all I could respond is like, wow, that's a great question. We'll look at it, What about you, Gaston? I know that you're pretty busy with several groups. Is there anything you can think of be interested in?
Yeah, I'm more than willing to help whatever you can think of I can do. I'm in a bit of a patch of busy right now just with Oberlin. We're trying to piece together a legal filing to confidentially to consolidate ownership of the cemetery. So it's taking a little bit of time. But I'm just trying to think of how I got to listen to you guys. I think this was a good experiment in this month that you did. And we're being bombarded. I need to figure out, I need you to tell me what you want me to do. I need to figure out a new way of thinking about it because we're now being inundated by being in the social media / computer world, as opposed to going to boring meetings for hours and hours and hours in person, which is good and bad, but it's different. So we gotta, what do you want me to try to engage in? I'll be glad to try. I can try researching. We have a couple different sources that come to the Friends of Oberlin Village about teams at some local universities. It might be good to turn them loose on the other villages, because it's like digging into computer files and things and historic files, and they've been pretty good about that. We've had them dig into some ownership issues related to the cemetery, and they've been amazingly good.
Well, I have a thought. So there one major thing that would help me, and it doesn't take a lot of work. Literally, if somebody had time and interest, and I know Travis had expressed interest, but he's not here. Literally just copy what's on the Facebook page for RHDC and put it into the Instagram. That would actually be a massive help. Because a lot of times I can find the time to do a Facebook post and write up an article for Facebook and get the photos and put that together, maybe once or twice a week. But because I also manage several other people's Facebooks and several other people's Instagrams, Instagram, you have to this is so petty, but you have to log out to log in to another Instagram, whereas Facebook, I can do it all from one spot. So Instagram is harder for me to manage just because of the fact that I'm going to have to log out of somebody else's Instagram and then log into that one and then have to remember that I'm in that Instagram. Because one time
I'll be glad to do. Who's the gatekeeper for our Instagram account?
I'm sorry?
Who's the gatekeeper for our Instagram account? We go through someone in order to post stuff, or have we been just doing it with self-restraint?
Had been pretty much, I know Colette was doing it for a little while, which that shouldn't be her job, but she had been. And then I would do it when I had a chance, and that's about it.
I'll be glad to harvest stuff off Facebook and post it to Instagram if that's what you're asking me. And the reason I'm okay with doing that, because recently I had the occasion to learn how to post stuff to Instagram from my computer as opposed to my phone. And there's a couple little tricks, and now I've learned it. Before I forget it, it might be useful for me to try to apply that knowledge to something else.
Yeah, I didn't know that would be helpful. And all you have to
You can do it, and you may want to, offline, you may want me to try to tell you what I learned. You can do it, but you have to use Chrome to do it.
Well, I use Chrome as my main internet.
It's not readily apparent how you do it, but once you do it, your computer at home mimics your screen on your phone, and you can do it right from there, import images and stuff. And I know enough to be able to distill what may be longer material from Facebook into short material for Instagram. And I assume the images are already there, so I can just, there's a little bit of problem with shrinking the images, but that's something I can learn to do.
Yeah, I saw your email about that. I'm sorry, I had no idea. I have no idea. I feel like Instagram should just automatically take whatever image and it automatically sizes it. So I don't know what is going on. I don't know why that would happen.
I may have gotten, these images may have come from a source that they were not just your ordinary image files, and that may have created the problem.
Maybe so, because that's weird. I've never had an issue with size of image to matter. Instagram automatically, adjusts. So it could be if it was some weird kind of file, like a TIFF, like Instagram might not take like a .tiff or something.
Yeah,
So,
it might be a vector file or whatever those complicated publishing files are called.
They just want it just wants a JPEG, I think. That's probably it. It's just a JPEG. I would do it for. But yeah, so you have no issue with our photos because they're all going to be JPEGs, so they shouldn't cause an issue. The other thing, and I hear you know, an interest in research we had talked about for October, and here's I want to ask you guys your thoughts. It's about Mount Hope Cemetery being our history for October. We'll definitely do that. Would there be any interest in it being Oberlin, just because we already have kind of an Oberlin expert here? Or if we keep it as Mount Hope, which I would like to do. I mean, I've never seen Mount Hope myself, so I think I'm kind of just excited about myself. But if we did that, would maybe some of you guys like to help with the research to put together some of the posts? Because it'd be similar.
We can tap Jane Thurman on that. Jane is the chairman of Raleigh City Cemeteries Preservation, which it keeps a stewardship over City Cemetery, Mount Hope, and Saint Somebody. There's a third cemetery. They're kind of a nonprofit that does more than Core Cobb does. And she knows everything about those cemeteries. She can help us enormously. Jane Thurman.
Is there anybody who would be interested in talking to her and like doing that interview and taking notes?
Well, I know her, and I can email. I can probably do it if you need an interview format. I can do it, but I can tell her what we need, like an overview of the history of, and maybe a handful of the most notable parts of the cemetery.
Yes, and pictures. If she has, I can go take photos, but you know,
she probably already has them. Tell you the truth.
That would be really helpful because we're thinking to do that for this month. We definitely, it's been easy with method because we already had the pictures ourselves and we already had that information ourselves on our Raleigh Historic. But for Mount Hope, you know, you want to make sure that we're doing it justice.
Who should I copy you and Aaron and Colette on the? I'll just send her a joint email saying here's what our ideas and here's what we'd like some help doing. She might just have it right on her computer and be able to really do it quickly.
That would be. I would like that.
I'll send it jointly to you and Carolyn. If you want a copy of it, I'll send it to you too. It's just going to be an email to Jane to ask her for help.
That would be great. And I don't mind doing some of the research. I have to tell y'all, I just Googled Freedman's neighborhoods and I found a bunch of other names. Just
what?
Yeah. Oberlin Method, Brooklyn, Lincolnville, St. Petersburg, and Hungry Neck.
Hungry Neck.
And those were near the fairgrounds. It said this is from a paper that was written in 1988. So, I mean,
I sent everybody the link.
So I just
like 5 minutes ago.
What'd you say?
I sent everyone the link to that report about 5 minutes ago.
Okay, right there you go. From the 19th, 20th centuries. It was from Richard Matson, November of 1988.
Wow, that's awesome. Maybe this could be a November thing.
Maybe so. Because it was in November. Yeah, this report was written in November of 1988.
That's wow. This is great. I'm looking at it now. The link you sent.
That's funny that you sent the link after I just Googled it and found that. So before you sent the link, I didn't even realize it.
Well, this could be something that, you know, and if we want to get a jump on it, and Carolyn, if you would like to lead it up, let's distill information from this for, like, you know, posts. Like, what would be an interesting, you know, like, pull out some of this information, distill it down into like the most interesting pieces. Maybe even find someone to contact. I don't know if this person who wrote this would still be around. You know, I'd hate to just pull everything out of their stuff and just put it on our Facebook. And if we acknowledge them, it'd be great if we could, you know, talk to them or even they have notes at the bottom here. They've got, you know, other books that they looked at. And, you know, Carolyn, if you would like to do that,
I'll be glad to kind of give it just a start, just to see. I don't want to not do it well. Now, and I have a question. So you said you sent that link. Did you? I'm not used to WebEx. So did that get emailed to us, or was that sent through this
It's
meeting?
emailed to you now.
And I don't see it.
oh no, it just came to Aaron, me, Travis, and Gaston.
Okay.
I'll forward it along.
All right.
Could you also forward to Trish as well?
Yeah.
Just so she's in the loop.
Is that, can you give me, I actually don't have the email addresses. Is that Trish? How do you?
Send it to Carolyn. I
okay.
just
Thank you, Gaston.
I'll forward it to Trish.
Okay. Yeah, I don't, email addresses just in my head here. So actually, I think that's a great idea. That would allow us to have our information in it, because I tend to fly by the seat of my pants. And I'm just like, okay, it's October. Now I'm going to start researching this thing and post as I go. But it would be awesome if we had someone who is kind of researching the information for November. And then when we have our November meeting, you might have some resources and information kind of pulled together for us that would lead right into our November social media.
Well, I'll be glad to start on it and contact you along the way if that's okay, just to be sure I'm on the right track. But this is pretty exciting, I think. And the Oberlin program that was on the special that was on UNC TV, I have to say that was just a great program. Did you have anything to do with that, Gaston? Any of that?
No, we just shepherded it through, and that was the good graces of Empire Properties, and we got a grant. And then I had very little to do with it, but it is masterfully done.
It is, and Mrs. Fields, who was on there, was my daughter's teacher at Hunter Elementary School, and so that was just really great to know all the history of her family. Then, and she was, of course, in the video.
It was quite a remarkable project. We're using it for a different purpose right now. We're trying to welcome the people that are building the new historically inappropriate condos on Oberlin Road are getting a welcoming package, not to Cameron Village, but to Oberlin Village.
And I also, one of my staff members' family is originally an Oberlin family, and they were ones that ended up when Wade Avenue came through there on the other side. But the house that they, so that family was one of them. So that was just a great undertaking. I'm just so pleased with that.
So so I should get busy with Jane and sending a joint email, see if we can pull something together for October, and then Carolyn's going to work on something for November related to the other hidden villages.
Yes, and I'm taking notes out when the meeting's over, so that you'll have like reminders of what everyone will be working on.
I'm just looking at this paper. This looks like an extremely well documented, whatever you want to call it. This looks very, yeah.
I'd love to find the person who wrote this. I mean, this is pretty old, so I'm not sure if they're still in this area or not. It'd be great. I mean, they've got, but they've given us all their sources. So I mean, the other thing is we can research from the paper. We can also dig into the sources here, and they've got this map of Raleigh, for example.
He even relates it to that map, that was drawn, and he relates it to there, and things that are current, like fairgrounds. There were a couple of them near the fairgrounds, which is near Method. So, they just kind of.
I think they're referring to the old fairgrounds, not the current.
Yeah, it could be the old one. Yeah, the old one, because that old one is the one in the map. Yeah.
Where did you find this, Colette? May I ask? I'm just curious.
It's on RHDC.org.
Oh, wow. Oh, really?
Yep.
But see, there you go. And I mean, that's, Colette, it's good that you know all the info we have access to.
The person who wrote it they may have gone out of business. They were consultants from Charlotte. He's the one who also wrote the National Register nomination for Hungry Neck Idlewild.
Okay. So maybe all the information, is it all in that document that we all there? Colette, you have other information?
I think that's most of it.
Okay, well, good.
I hate to ask a stupid question, but if I want to download a copy as a file, I just download it that way from your email?
Yeah, if it opens as a PDF, you should just be able to.
I
Cover
need my computer
and
decided
download
it didn't seem to open as PDF. I'll go back and look more carefully. Thank you.
And there's a little, for me at least, there's a little download button in the top right-hand corner.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So I think that's really great for November, especially because people have been asking about this. And ideally, I mean, we want our brand to be at least partially that we're going to educate people on these pieces of history and the history of these buildings and these communities, that they don't know much about themselves. You know, the more people look to us as the resource for local Raleigh history, the better, you know. So I think this would be great, and it'll give us something to work on for November, and we'll kind of already be ready when November comes. We'll already have what we need. Another thing, Carolyn, that you could be thinking about is pictures, because information is good, but we do need to have photos to go with these posts. So another thing to think about as you maybe read through this, and I'll read through it too. I'm not going to just leave it all on you. You know, I'll look through it too myself, but maybe be brainstorming some places we could go photograph, right? So if we find out, you know, the Brooklyn community was near the old fairgrounds, we could go down to that area and get a picture to show what it looks like today, right? Or go through the archives and see if we can find a photo from back then. But it is important to have photos to go along with this, because a post without a photo usually does not get a lot of engagement. You normally want to have a picture with it. So that's another thing to be thinking about, is the imagery and where we would want to do our live stream for this.
Okay. Yeah, I think picture's really important.
Yeah.
Colette, do you have any idea of other picture sources?
Archives.
Yeah, I think archives.
Yeah, the archives is a place. Yeah, we could easily go there.
Also maps, you know, like if you go look at the map that he quotes in there, or that he cites in there, if you find that exact map and put that'd be, people love a map. They love.
Yeah. Okay. I'll just start and I'll be in touch and let you kind of know where it goes.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it looks like we've got things kind of laid out for 2 months now. We've got our themes, we've got people researching. For this month, it being October, I'm planning to build up to a live stream at Mount Hope Cemetery. I'm not trying to volunteer anybody, but is there anybody who would like to be involved more? Gaston, I know you're going to actually probably find a lot of photos and info when you reach out to your contact. But I just want to double check, is there anybody who wants to do anything more with this month's work? Like going down there and taking pictures, or going down there and being part of the live stream. It's fine if you don't, but I like to offer. Some people really like to have that opportunity, and I want you to just think, well, Heather's just going to do it. You know?
Well, when you get a conversation or see the conversation with Jane can do stand-up any day of the week about the 3 cemeteries.
Ooh, that's a good idea, actually.
With you. I mean, she's authority. She is authority on these 3 cemeteries, Mount Hope, Raleigh City Cemetery, and Raleigh Cemetery, rather. And I'm looking at the other one. Say somebody.
Wait, you know the third one.
It's a little Catholic cemetery. It's itty bitty.
It is over by Idlewild, right?
Yeah. What's the name? Not Gertrude. God, I can't remember what the name of it is.
All right, I'll see if I can Google faster than you, Colette.
It's O'Rourke.
That's it. That's it. Rourke.
Because I was very curious. It was going to really bother me if I never got to find out. Well, that's a great idea too. Maybe we could have her come and, give a tour that we live stream. And then it's not just me giving a live stream of something that I'm barely researched. It would be an expert touring through it and showing us.
How long are your live streams? 15, 12, 7?
15 minutes. I mean, we can go 30 if she wants to, but some people don't like to do a whole 30-minute thing. I go 30. actually, but
If she's got information on so many of them, I think she's going to be a good source to
yeah.
in the future as well.
No, I should do. It was actually some. I used to be on their board. There's some interesting parts to Raleigh Cemetery too. I mean, they completed a 10-year restoration of the peace plot, and that uncovered a whole bunch of interesting stuff.
Wow. Yeah, I think I mean, any cemetery would be fascinating. I think the reason we chose Mount Hope, please correct me if I'm wrong, is it that it's recently becoming a landmark and that we're helping with that and that Ian is helping with that? Am I right?
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead, Gaston.
no, you know the answer. I just know that there are two parts of the cemetery. One's active and one's not.
I was just gonna say that their Hillcrest Cemetery is a landmark nomination that's going through city council through the process now.
That's the one.
Mount Hope is already a landmark.
That makes sense. Maybe did we decide on Mount Hope last time, or was it? You said Hillcrest, not the one in Cary.
No, Hillcrest is down Garner Road. I'm not sure of all the cemeteries we discussed. I know you were in one for October because of time of season.
Mount Hope has one kind of. It's not real negative, but it's a little negative. It's not dramatically, and it doesn't contain a lot of dramatic tombstones, headstones. Stones. It's a little plain.
Hillcrest is?
No, Mount Hope.
Mount Hope is plain. Oh, well then, let's do a different.
So we'll look at the pictures and then you decide whether it's. There are some things. There's enough for 15 minutes.
I think the question that we should also be thinking about is not necessarily or not only what the headstone artistry is, but also what the stories of the people buried there are. And Mount Hope has a lot.
It's rich in that. I was just thinking how easy it'll be to pull people in with a visual, but there's plenty there to do.
If I remember correctly, I think we settled on Mount Hope because it's city owned and therefore there would be easy access.
There we go. Thank you. All right, we will do Mount Hope. We'll do Mount Hope. And I haven't been there myself. I'm kind of interested in seeing it. And we have a connection that it sounds like is going to know a lot about the history. So let's do that one. I think that's a good one. Though it might be worth mentioning Hillcrest during the month, especially since it's something that is kind of actively being worked on. But we'll do Mount Hope. Because I don't think that one's touched as much. I feel like there's always a lot of interest in Oberlin Cemetery and in the city cemetery. But I don't typically see as much content around Mount Hope, and I don't think I've ever seen a lot of content around Hillcrest. And I'm talking about like public-facing consumable content, not like what historians are reading. All right. So to me, that sounds like we've got our plan for the next couple of months. One quick thing we had talked about, and again, Travis was here, so we had talked about trying to plan something kind of like Preservation North Carolina has been doing all these little series where they have like an expert in a certain piece of history come and talk about, this old historic lighthouse or this old historic, home. We are doing the tours, which is, I think, interesting, but we could consider doing something a little bit more in depth, right? The tours are pretty simple. They're a live stream. It's pretty much a one and done, right? Go out there, you do it, and it's over. Obviously, what Preservation North Carolina is doing, it's more of a, they can brand it. They can encourage people to get tickets and capture their emails and all that. Is that something that we're still interested in doing, or do you feel like, at least right now, before the holidays, that much? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. And again, I wish it was really Travis was talking about it more, so I put it on everyone else, but I just would like to hear thoughts.
This is October.
Here to support what you all want to do. So if
Mhm.
you are interested, speak up. And if you're not, speak up. And we'll back you up.
After just talking about all this, I'm not, and I haven't been to a meeting in a while. I want to get my head around this before I go too much further. But, I think anything that we do that just keeps people interested. And like you were saying, this is a time where we're missing out on some things, but people are researching things differently. This really might give us some opportunity to engage people in a different way. So I definitely think we should keep thinking about possibilities. I'm just drawing a blank right now as to what I would recommend, based even with just what we've just said, which I think is good. But I'm all for looking for opportunities and places and more historical places to tell people about.
Mhm. I agree. I think I would love for us to have something more, like we normally would have some kind of event. But given that we're still kind of adjusting to a new way of connecting with Raleigh, purely through social media and, through digital outreach, it might be that trying to also, on top of these new theme months and live streams and research in a way that we haven't done before, that adding another new facet to it of trying to do some sort of online, you know, presentation for guests might be too much for now. So I'm kind of leaning that way, but I didn't want to just brush it off and not mention it. I wanted to make sure, you know, that you guys felt similarly, or if there was a lot of passion for it, that we can work on it. If we did do something like that, I think it would have to be after Christmas, because we're going to be pretty slammed through October. And then trying to organize something like this. And, to be honest, I've never organized an online presentation before. It might just be something that would be too big for us to work on right now. So maybe something to tuck away in our minds to think about for maybe the new year. Okay. We're about to wrap up. I don't want to keep anybody late. Is there any other thoughts, given that we are having to connect with people in this new way? We are doing social media theme months. We're doing tours, through virtual tours, through live streams. We're doing research. We're having to gather photos in a way we've never had to do before, getting, lots of this stuff together that we've never really had to struggle with. But given that we do have an opportunity, as you said, people are interacting with the world in a new way. Is there anything else anybody's thinking about that we should be doing that we're not doing already, or that you'd like us to do, or that you'd like to do?
I just noted with great interest my subscription to the N&O wanes and ebbs and wanes. Some days never mind. But I thought it was fascinating that there was a speakeasy underneath of Sir Walter Raleigh. I thought that was one of the most interesting things I've ever seen. And I so wanted to go there and see it.
Did you? I did a live stream underneath there. Did you see it?
No, I have not seen that. I need to get your link on that. So
I'll send you, because I actually walked all through there and
I
did
saw
a video.
the pictures, but it was fascinating. And I've already told you about the similarly ghost bar that's underneath Mitch's.
I would love to do a story on that. Like
Yeah.
that. That's
it would be. It won't be good for this next year. Let's think about it in time for Halloween because it kind of fits.
Oh, if we could get something like that for RHDC, I mean, that could be a story that goes viral.
How do we? Are any or me? I know we have certain people connected with news outlets, but do any of our news outlets ever do a moment for history as a part of their regular programming at any time on a reoccurring basis, so once a month or so often? Do they ever feature something historical as a part of their news feeds?
The closest that I know would be my hidden history segment. But that is not typically televised. It's usually, I think it's once a week. I do a live stream It's about 30 minutes long, and it's on WRAL's Facebook. And so that is sort of the moment for history. I'm pushing for them to put it on TV, like not necessarily me, but just whatever the historic thing is, because it's literally one of our most popular things on WRAL. And I'm not saying that to pat myself on the back. I'm saying it to point out how much people love history. Literally, we did a survey on what are the most popular things. Why do people come to WRAL? Why are they watching? Why are they looking at our website? History, hidden history, was literally in the top 5 of like hundreds of things that we offer. And it's only been offered for less than a year. It's very quickly become something people really love. So I do think it should be televised, because clearly it's something that is now part of the brand. But it also shows, as RHDC, the type of opportunities we have, because people really, really love history. They love it. You have to hit it with the right angle. They don't know they love history all the time. They don't realize how much they love it until they suddenly find out, like, they've been walking past a freedman's village this whole time, and the park they've been going to has this extremely rich history, and they didn't know anything about it. So we have a huge opportunity, and especially with everything being digital right now, we have this massive opportunity to really reach into those audiences through our content. So it's actually a really good time. I know it's tough during the pandemic to not be able to have like physical meetings and stuff, but it's actually a really good time for capturing an audience digitally. Gaston, were you trying to say that you'd like to get a news channel to promote something RHDC is doing? Is that what you were pushing towards?
Yeah. I'm thinking, we're all looking for spots in time, and it's valuable, and time is money, blah, 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 blah. But it would be nice if it was periodically, at least once a month or something. 12 months in the year, that's just 12 spots. A recurring thing with its own little identity. They're often looking for something that's, we always said if it bleeds, it leads. But I've noticed in the national programming now, they're putting in, a lot of them are putting in little feel-good messages at the very end. I think that's a response to the horrible pandemic we're in, where 200,000+ people are dying, and we have interesting leadership. So, they put these little friendly things in, puppies and orphans at the end of newscasts. It's prominent now at the very end. They always have a little moment of brightness.
Yeah, no, I actually think that's why history on WRAL is doing so well, because people are just so happy to have something that's not eating. What we can do, I have no issue with including something RHDC is doing, a segment. I've just kind of tried to keep it separate because I don't want to conflict of interest with RHDC, right? Like, I don't want to be like, oh, RHDC is doing, because, like, for example, I thought method was interesting, and I would love to write about method for WRAL, but I didn't want to steal it from RHDC. So I try to be careful about walking that line. But if you want to think of a way that, maybe at the end of the month, WRAL can cover something RHDC is doing, I think that would be fine, to give RHDC that extra little promotion. Definitely worth thinking about. I don't mind doing it. I think that would be interesting, and I don't see any issue with it on WRAL's end. They know that, I'm with RHDC, so they wouldn't be like shocked or anything. I've just been trying to be careful not to steal anything from us, right? Like, I don't want to take our viewership away and give it to someone else. But maybe if at the end of the month, after RHDC has gotten all we can out of something, then I could put it in a hidden history segment and point back to RHDC and say, look at what RHDC is doing this month. Maybe something like that.
I'm just looking for ways to get into people's homes.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I mean, we could reach out to like News and Observer and see. I know they have a history segment too. It's not as like regular, but they do something called pastimes. So we could reach out to them and see if they want to, talk about. I don't think I could reach out to them. It would have to be something one of you guys would do, because I think it'd be a little weird if I did. Like, hey, this is Heather from WRAL. Would you write about something I'm doing with RHDC? I think that would, I don't know how I would do it. So, but if you want to reach out to like News and Observer, and tell them like, hey, RHDC is doing these theme months and maybe you guys could cover it, see if they're interested.
We're in a weird world. I was just pausing and had my brain in neutral for a moment because I don't know what the forces are these days that we're dealing with. I know that I just observe things and we're in a strange, wonderful time, but yeah.
We are. Well, let's stick with what we've got right now, and then we'll keep thinking about ways to get more into people's homes as the months go on. And hopefully, eventually, we'll be able to get out of our homes ourselves and go out and do things. It is 5:01, so I think we can cut it here, unless anybody has anything else important.
Thank you all.
See, I'm glad you can make it. It looks like we lost Carolyn, but did I hear you say that you were taking minutes or notes on the meeting? Are you planning to email those out to the committee?
Yeah, I was just taking notes on what people, what tasks we've sort of agreed to do. So I'll send out the notes about what we talked about. They're not minutes though. They're not like official minutes. I don't know how.
Fair enough. Very rough version of that.
Yeah, I'll send those out in a minute here. In a minute.
Okay. Do you have everybody's emails, or do you want me to follow up with you?
I have everyone here's email and Travis's, but I don't have Trish.
Okay. I'll forward her email to you as well, so you can loop her and Carolyn in.
Sounds good. All right, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.